The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. Well, no. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Welcome back. This is 2026. Didn't do a show yesterday. You're watching Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden. We're broadcasting live as always from Ottawa, hoping to stay at this 10 o'clock time slot. The last month has been, shall we say, a little difficult at times, but we're back and we're happy, so happy to be back. And we really want to have your support this year in every way possible. And let's explain what I need. But I want to thank you for all the support you've given us throughout the year as we continue to grow the Stand on Guard broadcast. But there's three things you can do to help us. And all of them are free. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And that's how you like the broadcast. And that's Sasha the cat doing what Sasha always did. This is how we beat Mark Carney's censorship. And so more people can see this broadcast. The second thing you can do on YouTube, find the hype button. Where's the hype button? It's right here. There's the hype button on YouTube. And I'm showing it to you right here. The third thing, go find my Substack at KRAYDEN'S.com, and you can subscribe there for free, where I can give you original reporting and our newsletter. Thank you again for the support you've given us, and thank you in advance for the support you're going to continue to give us. We need it. God bless you all. Found this great video this morning on X, and I want to share that with you in a moment. But before I do, let's remember what happened when the Freedom Convoy came to Ottawa. And it'll be 3 years now. Actually 4 years. And let's remember how this ended. And I'll tell you why I'm showing this to you now after we watch this.
Goose! 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 Goose!
Okay. On out of the car.
Patriot love in all of us common. With God's we see from far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Wow. That happened in Ottawa. And I remember so much of that. I was there. Remember that shot there of the older gent being brutally pushed up against his car? He had just honked. And that's the kind of police brutality But I witnessed, we saw, the world saw, just like it saw what happened in Edgewood, BC at Universal Ostrich Farms this year. This happened in Canada. This kind of police brutality. Now, I always support the police. And it's not like I'm suddenly somebody who says we don't need police protection. We need the police to protect law-abiding citizens, not to be working for the Liberal Party of Canada. That's what the RCMP now does. That's what various provincial police forces are doing. They're working for the government, not you, not the country, for the government of the day and the political party behind it. This must never happen again. I'm wearing this t-shirt today. This is our Big Brother t-shirt. This is Mark Carney on one half, and the picture, of course, of Big Brother from the 1984 film from the 1950s. That's where we could be going this year. Our civil rights were brutally steamrolled, overwhelmed. And it's going to get worse in 2026 if we don't fight back on the censorship and surveillance bills that Mark Carney is pushing hard for. And I want to make that clear. That's the major protest this year. If we lose our freedom of speech, and I'm tired of saying this, but I have to keep saying it because some people don't get it. We lose our freedom of speech, we lose it all. Because without freedom of speech, we can't fight for any other foundational freedoms. That's necessary if we want a free and democratic Canada where liberty reigns. It sure as hell isn't raining right now. It sure as hell didn't rain in 2025. When farmers in a farm can be attacked, occupied by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and the RCMP, just like it wasn't during the Freedom Convoy. That was a peaceful protest. And you saw the police kicking heads, putting their knee in people's faces, but they got away with it. And guess what? If these censorship laws go through, the police would come through your front door and arrest you for things you text, you messaged, you put on X, you put on Facebook, you put on YouTube. And just like they are doing in the UK right now, in Great Britain, where the police are entering people's homes, arresting them for things they text in a private text message. Do you think the police aren't monitoring what we're saying, what we're doing, what we are writing? Not just the things we put up on YouTube, not just a broadcast like this, not just things I say on X, but private text messages are being monitored by the police. We saw the evidence of that at the farmers' protest here in Ottawa, at the farmers' rally. A woman came to me and said, the OPP are reading my private text messages, my email. And they know I'm going to this rally, and they're telling me I shouldn't go because it might not be safe for me. So that's where the fight is in 2026. What can you expect of me in 2026? Well, I'm not going down without a fight. I'm not going to suddenly say, well, I'm going to play the game, the algorithm game, and I'm going to be nothing but a propagandist for a political party, and I'm just going to soften my stand on the censorship because, hey, maybe they'll overlook me. Maybe they just won't notice. That would be the equivalent of being a political enemy in a totalitarian state and saying, I'll just play along and maybe they won't come arrest me. Maybe they'll get my neighbor. Maybe they'll get my uncle. Maybe they'll arrest my coworker. But if I play the game, maybe they won't arrest me. Yeah, they will. You might be next after the coworker, after the uncle, after your friend. Here's a great video I discovered this morning from a Conservative MP. And this, once again, illustrates the corruption of the Mark Carney government and how evil Brookfield Asset Management behaves. Watch this.
They say happiness can be described as a mathematical equation. Experience minus expectations. I'll give you an example of that. Christmas season. Everyone has a Hallmark version of Christmas in their head. Family will get together and enjoy a nice meal and have a great time. But quite often you'll have that loud uncle that says something inappropriate.
Mary, traffic was awful. 3 hours. Whoa, you gained weight.
An aunt that's causing problems with the rest of the family. It's not quite what you had in mind. Your expectations were here. Your experience was here. That gap in the middle, that's unhappiness. I think of that in the context of our Prime Minister Mark Carney, someone who set the expectations for himself very, very high.
With your charm and debonair wit, yet strong financial backbone, that you offer yourself have you offered yourself as leader?
I just started thinking about it when you brought it up.
Look, if there's not a crisis, you wouldn't be seeing me. I am most useful. I'm honest. I'm most useful in crisis. I'm not that good in peacetime.
But what we're experiencing, what he's delivered, is something completely different. From his very first press conference, about 90 minutes after he told Canadians that he was running to be Prime Minister, he said that he had resigned all his board positions.
Even as a candidate, what are you doing?
Well, I just told you. I literally just told you. I have resigned all my positions. I resigned all my positions. Full stop.
We found out the very next day from the National Post that this wasn't true. During the campaign, he was stomping around saying, elbows up, we're going to fight Donald Trump everywhere. And we're going to tariff for tariff with Donald Trump. Not only did he drop all the tariffs during the campaign and not tell anybody, but then just a couple of weeks ago, when a reporter asked him about this, he said, who cares?
Next question.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters.
Expectations here, experience here. And this goes on and on and on. But I think the most egregious example of this is Mark Carney's record when it comes to environmental stewardship. Millions of Canadians voted for this guy because they believe he was an environmental champion. He trotted around the world promoting green energy projects. He was advisor to Prime Minister Trudeau. It wouldn't have been unusual a few years ago to see this guy on Bloomberg or BNN talking about green projects and how Brookfield was there to save the day, where all he talked about was green energy and how we had to get to net zero.
Our ultimate objectives, which is to get to net zero, we do not just have a cap on emissions, but those emissions are brought effectively to zero. In terms of, we have both far too many fossil fuels in the world. We're going to have enormous stranded assets, half of gas, 3/4 of coal, etc. Maybe up as much as half of oil reserves, proven reserves, need to stay in the ground if we're going to get to where we are.
That's expectations being set through the roof, and Canadians believed them, and they voted for him. So those were the expectations. Now let me introduce the reality. The Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the planet. The biodiversity here is incredible. It's home to more plant species and more animal species than any other place on Earth. I'm not David Attenborough, and I can't do it justice, but anyone should go and watch Planet Earth to see the majesty of the rainforest and how important it is to our planet. We've been fighting deforestation for decades, trying to save species from extinction.
I just want to interrupt at this point and say, remember when ecology meant not polluting the environment, trying to clean up things, conservation of living things? These were all worthwhile objectives. That's before we started calling carbon a toxin, or carbon a poison, or carbon something that's bad for you. That's before we got caught up in the facade of climate change, which is nothing more than a swindle for companies, corporations to make money, and governments to seize power. That's what's going on.
It's probably not a good idea that we cut it down. When people see the clear cutting of the Amazon rainforest, they know in their heart that this is something that's wrong. But then, along came Brookfield. This is a 2022 report by Global Witness called Slash and Sell that details the destruction of the rainforest and abuses of Indigenous people by Brookfield, featuring this guy, Mark Carney. I want to be very clear. These are very serious allegations. They include human rights abuses, accusations of slavery, deforestation of the rainforest? I'm reporting what I found from Global Witness. I'm going to put a link below so you can read it for yourself. I'm just going to read from the top line of the summary of findings. A Canadian asset manager, part run by green finance champion Mark Carney, cleared thousands of football fields worth of tropical forest in Brazil. An estimated 9,000 hectares of deforestation, the legality of which could not be proven by Brookfield Asset Management, took place on 8 farms owned and managed by Brookfield's soybean farming empire. Brookfield signed up to the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, GFANZ, in April of 2021. The alliance commits its signatories to taking immediate action to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Yet, deforestation on Brookfield's farms released an estimated 600,000 tons of CO2 in the 9 years up to June 21, destroying parts of a crucial carbon sink and biodiversity hotspot. And so this guy was trotting around the world with his elbows up, telling everyone that they need to reach net zero by 2050. They have to drive an electric vehicle, that you have to suffer to save the environment. All the while, this guy and Brookfield, Mark Carney and Brookfield, are leveling the rainforest.
Isn't this incredible? I love this video. It says it all because it's gross hypocrisy. It's about money for Mark Carney, for Brookfield Asset Management. They don't give a damn about the environment, ecology, the health of the planet. It's all a facade, a veneer for making more money and seizing more power. This is a great video. Great video.
Brookfield's assets in Brazil are worth tens of billions of dollars. For anything from infrastructure to energy, gas pipelines, hydroelectric, nuclear plants, shopping malls. But it actually gets a little bit complicated. With companies, shell companies, holding companies, nothing's very clear. Except when it comes to the destruction of the rainforest, which was so obvious that you can see it from space. From the air, green tufts of soybean form dark geometrical shapes in otherwise bald patches of tropical rainforest savanna. The boundaries between forest and clear land on Brookfield farms are so straight that they could only be human-made. Satellite imagery confirms the destruction of the rainforest that is unmistakable. And this is all happening at the same time when Mark Carney wrote to members of GFANZ, urging them to stop financing deforestation, warning the world will not reach net zero by 2050 unless we halt and reverse deforestation within a decade. This is probably the most damning example of experience versus expectations that I have ever seen. And you'd think this couldn't get any worse. And then you read the slave labor findings. I know it makes for a less interesting video, but on this, I'm going to read straight from the report. Under the heading, Slave Labor Concerns, police found 42 farm workers living in slave-like conditions inside a farm in 2014, 28 of whom were housed in a 70-meter square house with no toilets or showers, according to court papers from November 21 and local newspaper reports. Brookfield was fined $800,000 for this offense, a court ruling that was upheld in December of 2021. And Mark Carney was the vice chair of Brookfield when this court ruling came down.
Is this incredible or what? Brookfield not only won't pay taxes in Canada, but shovels its money into offshore tax havens. They're tax evaders. Hey, I'm all for paying less taxes. But if only if that applies to everybody, not just corporate elites like Mark Carney. Brookfield Asset Management didn't just evade paying its taxes. It used slave labor. Incredible.
I don't even know what to say. Can you imagine for 1 second if Pierre Poilievre, or a company that he was connected to, had these kind of accusations against him? The legacy media would have lit their hair on fire.
Yep. So I mean, we have basically a liberal heckler who snuck in here today. Thank you very much. I'm being heckled here by. Thank you very much for your congratulations. Thank you very much for your questions.
Millions of people voted for Mark Carney because they thought he was a champion for the environment, for green energy. This could not be further from the truth. Why weren't we told about this during the election? Thousands and thousands of NDP voters switched to the Liberals in the last election, thinking that Mark Carney was an environmental champion, that he had their best interest at heart. How are they learning about this for the first time right now? Now, I'm not saying that Mark Carney had slaves, but Mark Carney was the vice chair of Brookfield when a Brookfield-controlled company paid $800,000 to the Brazilian government as a fine for slave labor-related offenses. And can you imagine if the situation was reversed and it was Pierre Poilievre? What would the media do? This situation is so absurd that I can't believe that I'm having to clarify that Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, had or didn't have slaves. There are court documents and satellite images to back up all of these claims. Let's bring this back to happiness. Expectations minus experience. If your kid came to you and said, I want a red bike for Christmas, and you got him socks, I'm pretty sure he'd be disappointed. I think the same thing's true with Mark Carney. Millions of people voted for Mark Carney because they were told he was a green champion. And now they're learning that he participated in the deforestation of the rainforest. They were told he was one thing, now he's proving to be something else. I think Canadians are going to be pretty upset.
Stephen Bonk, Member of Parliament, Conservative MP. Fantastic video. It wasn't just 9 minutes of propaganda for the party. It was a very deep look at how corrupt Brookfield Asset Management is. That's incredible. I got another video to show you here, which you probably haven't seen, about the corruption from Brookfield Asset Management and about how the CRA now wants to freeze bank accounts again if it suspects you of abusing the CERB. Incredible. Let's have a look, though, at what's going on X today. Some incredible stuff here. Elon Musk is actually campaigning for Donald Trump, even though they had a disagreement over Doge, and I sided with Elon Musk on Doge. I think Doge was a great idea and should have been allowed to continue. But Elon Musk is saying, holy crap. Yeah, Donald Trump can be disagreeable. Donald Trump can be disappointing. But what's the alternative? My God, it could have been Kamala Harris. It could be back to millions, tens of millions of illegals crossing the border. Think about what's really important here. Look at, and I want to show you my human events column about that later. But look at this here. In 2025, Canada's House of Commons sat for just 72 days. That's the fewest in 80 years. And thank you, Blender News, for this. During that time, Parliament oversaw a $586 billion budget and passed only 7 bills. The math, 72 sitting days, $586 billion in spending. That's roughly $8 billion per day. Parliament sat. Wow. Nicholas Hulsher, he was on the show a couple of months back. And here he is saying, the CDC illegal vaccination schedule is a complete disaster and should be immediately suspended. There are now 13 studies comparing vax versus unvaxxed children. And they all found the same thing. Vaccinated children are far sicker with higher risks of, death, autism, cancer, autoimmune disease, diabetes, ADHD, tics, asthma, motor disability, speech disorders, mental health disorders, neurodevelopmental disorders, developmental delay, atopic disease, seizure disorder, food allergies, neurological disorder, brain dysfunction, behavioral disability, learning disability, intellectual disability, chronic infections. It's time to end this madness and immediately suspend the system that is harming children on a massive scale. Wow. I like what Andy Lee posted here. This is so true. If you ever wonder why the Liberals fought to keep the Winnipeg National Microbiology Lab documents sealed after Chinese scientists shipped the deadliest viruses on Earth to the Wuhan Institute of Virology right before a pandemic hit, yeah, it's all there. They didn't want the evidence out, and I said that at the time. There it is. Michelle Kretchen is reporting is reported having favor for China as well. He joined hands with Zhang Zhuqi, who shipped viruses to WIV secretly to research new antiviral drugs for years. The drug entered clinical trials shortly after a pandemic broke out in March 2020. The Winnipeg lab researcher who smuggled viruses to China is connected to former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien's brother, Michel. That, my friend, is incredible. That is incredible. But what else can you expect here? It just seems to get worse. Thank you, Mark Nixon, for this one here. Look at this. Happy New Year. For now until June 8th, you're working for Ottawa. That's almost half the year. And I'm sure it's going to be half the year before long. Sending your money to Ukraine or gender rice in Vietnam. After that, you get to work for what's left. So we're almost working 6 months for the government. I want to put this out there because Kayla has been on the show. I want to have her on again. In fact, I'm going to invite her on the show this week or this week for next week. I never thought I would be writing this, Kayla writes. And if you wonder, Kayla Pollock was severely damaged by the COVID vax. She was a very good athlete. Now she's a paraplegic. I have been invited to Japan for amyloid therapy, a treatment that could actually help my condition after being permanently disabled. Canada has nothing for me. No treatment, no pathway, just MAID, medical assistance in dying, paperwork. That's all Kayla has been offered. Now there is finally hope. But getting there costs money. I simply do not have. I am a mom. I'm a quadriplegic. Sorry, I said paraplegic. I meant quadriplegic. My apologies, Kayla. I am still fighting to live. If you are reading this and can help in sharing, following, or donating, please know that you could be the reason I get a chance at treatment instead of being written off. Please follow and share. Hope should not be this hard to reach. I'm going to have Kayla on the show this week to talk about it. Let's listen to this. Ted Nugent posted this. Ted Nugent's a great guy. And I want y'all to listen to this.
An extraordinary piece of reporting has just come out about the COVID vaccine trials and children. Alex Berenson reported this, and I have been reliably informed that we are fine to go with this reporting and that this will be borne out in the coming days. His headline is, and it was an exclusive to him, the FDA may add a strict black box warning on the mRNA COVID shots for kids and teens, millions of whom have already been given this thing, a black box warning. He reports the FDA may soon place this warning on the vaccines to alert physicians and parents of their link to childhood deaths. This is the strictest an agency can impose, this kind of warning. It's generally the last step they take before forcing a manufacturer to stop selling it. They're also considering an alternative, forcing Moderna and Pfizer to stop selling them to kids and teens, period. The potential move, he reports, follows the FDA's report on Friday that its reviewers had found COVID mRNA jabs killed at least 10 children and adolescents, and likely many more. He said they'd asked the FDA for comment, waiting to hear back. My sources tell me this is safe reporting. This actually is under consideration, and we're going to hear a report confirming this within days from the highest levels. This is an outrage, Chamath. This was forced on us. Every school, including my own, they were expelling boys who would not take the vaccine once they hit 16 and so on. This is downright dangerous, and it was sold to us by the Fauci, Biden, Collins administration under Joe Biden that refused to consider actual scientists like Vinay Prasad, who led this. He's leading this within FDA, who was an independent physician at Johns Hopkins at the time. And he was saying this at the time, saying these vaccines are causing deadly myocarditis in kids and teens. And he was scoffed at. He was marginalized like so many others and tried to dismiss as fringe. And now, thank God, under Trump and Marty McCary, he's been elevated to an important position.
Incredible. Here's something I can't leave out today. And I discovered this yesterday morning, and I sent this to Katie, and she's talking about it on her Facebook page. BC media outlet Castanet has named Katie Pesitney newsmaker of 2025. Nobody exposed the mendacity and tyranny of the Carney government more effectively than this eloquent woman, who I'm proud to call my close friend. And that of course, is incredible. Encourage you to watch my New Year's Eve broadcast with my good friends Jason Levine and Nico Lagan. A lot of people enjoyed this, and it was a great conversation, and we're going to have more of them. Now, I want to get back to this video here because it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And by the way, thank you for watching today. And before I put this video on, I do want to show you. I want to thank you again for all your support in the last year. You are helping to build this independent station and this independent broadcast. And to support my independent journalism, you can do a number of things. You can get a paid subscription on my Substack. There it is right there. And that, of course, is KRAYDEN'S.news.com. And here you can access my George Orwell audio book series. You can get a paid membership on YouTube or Locals. You can get a paid X subscription. And you can participate in the live chat where there are paid YouTube super chats and Rumble rants. We will be reading these rants and these super chats at least once a week on Wednesday. Thank you so much for your support. Now, I want to show you a bit of that column I referenced and Human Events. Before I get into this last video of the day, you're going to want to watch this. It's really, really quite incredible. But before I do that, I want to talk about this because a lot of people are very disappointed in Donald Trump. I've been very disappointed. The war in Ukraine isn't over. I've been disappointed Donald Trump seems to be not ending all foreign wars. I was very disappointed he shut down Doge. I was very disappointed that he's getting into mass surveillance. But what's the alternative? And I just want to read a bit of this for you. And this was in yesterday's Human Events. It's up right now. Please have a look at it. I'll put it in the information here. As we approach the first anniversary of President Donald Trump's second administration, it is worth noting that there is some degree of unease brewing among the MAGA base. This isn't exactly buyer remorse, but presidencies can be destroyed by indifference or half-hearted support as much as they can be by vociferous opposition. Trump voters need to ask themselves two questions if they have found their support of the president in even modest decline. One, is America better off in 2026 than it was at the beginning of 2025? And secondly, what would America be like if former Vice President Kamala Harris had won the 2024 presidential election? The first of these questions is the easiest to answer. If the only thing that Trump had achieved in the last year was to seal off the southern border and begin a realistic immigration policy, then that would be enough to celebrate. It is perhaps too easy to forget the chaos that former President Joe Biden promulgated at the border as literally millions of illegals walked across the border and hundreds of thousands of children were brought in to the U.S. to be trafficked in the sex trade. Ending this mess was easily one of the greatest exercises in national security and morality in American history. I encourage you to read the rest of the column. I really enjoyed writing that because if you think it's going to be better if we get rid of Trump and bring the Democrats in, it's going to be worse. That doesn't mean we stop criticizing, but it does mean we get realistic about who should be in the Oval Office. It's the same in Canada. Pierre Poilievre is certainly not perfect, and I criticize his positions at times. but he'd be a damn sight better at being prime minister than Mark Carney, because Pierre Poilievre is not deep, not just knee deep, but elbow deep in corruption. And let's listen to more about how corrupt things really are.
Yeah, the CRA is attempting to recover $10 billion in bogus COVID benefit payouts.
Yeah, they've again, you can go back and read my LinkedIn. They pushed this money out like drunken sailors, and I said this is going to lead to inflation and stagflation.
And
like there was no controls on when it was done.
If you were a temporary foreign worker, you were eligible for these benefits as well, as long as you'd made $5,000 in like the past, whatever it was.
They were giving it to
So
literally anybody.
how many people came here, sat on the benefits for that time, didn't work, temporary foreign workers, and then just left the country? Yeah. And they were probably legally eligible for it, is the worst thing.
$84 billion in benefits were paid out during the pandemic. $84 billion as they just spent money like drunken sailors. Absolutely. And now they're trying to get some of that back. Good luck.
Well, and get back $2.5 billion instead of giving it to Ukraine. Let's put it to this debt. Because I think a lot of the people who claimed these benefits wrongfully, they don't have that money to give back.
No.
And
it's gone.
They're saying that now the government is seeing like bank accounts are freezing, garnishes of wages for this. Yeah, Canadians, if you're already struggling and the government's going to garnish like 30% of your wage.
And this is the question that was missed. I'll let you lead into it.
Oh, the tax dodging? Is that where we're going next?
No, we might as well play the clip here.
Yeah.
On page 12 of your report, there is reference to Brookfield's tax gap over the last 5 years between 2017 and 2021. Just so that I'm clear on what a tax gap means, it is measuring the difference between taxes actually paid and taxes that would have been paid if the statutory Canadian tax rate had been applied to profits reaped. Do I have that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And according to your analysis, or the analysis cited in your report, Brookfield's tax gap in just 5 years between 2017 to 2021 was over $6.5 billion. Is that right?
That's correct, and that was based on research done by the Canadians for Tax Fairness and by some analysis from the Toronto Star as well.
So it would be fair to say that the extent of Brookfield's tax avoidance, taxes that it should have otherwise paid in Canada in just 5 years, was over $6.5 billion.
Yes, I mean, there are...
That's good, you get the idea.
Yeah, and Mark Carney, he was in charge of Brookfield until January of this year.
And the other thing is, he was the economic advisor for 5 years prior. And Canada is one of its biggest things, it's tax collector. So he was influencing tax policy. At the same time, he was influencing tax dodging at Brookfield. And people don't get that. He was actually economic advisor for Canada, which is a tax collector. That's its main function. Canada, the Canadian government, the main function is tax collection and then spending. So he's influencing policy. At the same time, he's finding loopholes. And he said in his election thing that he would fix, because he knows how these things work, and he would fix it. Here it is, global, and CBC get a sit-down interview with them, one of the few ever provided in Canada. Do they ask the question? Do they ask the question, have you closed the offshore tax structures tied to Brookfield? And if not, why not? And will your government pursue Brookfield for any back taxes owed to Canadians?
And then this is how the CBC framed it back in March. Carney's green funds at Brookfield used Bermuda tax haven to attract investors. That sounds positive, doesn't it? The byline is a bit more. Liberal Party refuses to answer questions about leaders' time in private sector.
But look at that headline.
Yeah, I know, it sounds great.
Here they're going after Canadians for a couple $1,000s, freezing their bank accounts, seizing their wages, and Brookfield dodges $6.5 billion?
Yep.
And CBC, Canada's state-funded broadcaster, is supposed to be Canada's watchdog, frames it like this: Carney's green funds at Brookfield use Bermuda tax haven to attract investors. Basically, it just says Carney knows how to dodge taxes, and that's a good thing for investors.
And if you listen to the CBC regularly, which I do, they're always framing him as this financial genius. Oh, we're so lucky. Look at his resume that he's leading our country. He's bankrupt in the country.
I would ask you to go read my LinkedIn post there, and I put the questions I would have asked if we were provided the interview. I put 7 questions there, and I put all the questions that were asked by Global. The cool thing about that, not cool, the odd thing about that interview, there was no follow-ups. Like, she asked the question like they were almost framed ahead of time, like they were almost provided. Carney had his answers, wasn't challenged on any of the answers, just provided the answers. Like a monkey could have read out those questions. And they weren't hard-hitting questions. So here's the guy that's the most powerful guy in Canada, and he was basically given a sponsored content piece, and that was
set up for the home run.
And then if you look at the CBC piece here, and I'm going to do the same thing for Rosemary Barton's interview, and I'm also going to do it for Pierre Poilievre, and you have to look at this and then ask yourself, what type of media do we want in Canada? If they're supposed to be our watchdog and hold power accountable, are they doing a good job, or are they propping up power? So the question is, will you support local independent media? And that you can do that simply, not with money, but just liking, sharing, subscribing, getting this out to more people. And then, because that's the only way, is independent journalism is on the rise in the United States. It's huge down there, and we need it to happen here in Canada, because the mainstream media is not doing the function they're supposed to be. Because if you look at this headline, Canada's largest tax dodgers, and even if you think about it, Obama said the Bermuda tax haven is the worst. Those people doing it are the worst tax offenders in the world. And I think there was hundreds of people that had the same Bermuda bike shop as listed as their office. That's the office. It's a bike shop there. You can go find it on the internet. It's a bike shop in Bermuda. That's the head office there for this tax dodging.
Well, and now Brookfield has moved to the States. Carney's more invested in the States than he is in Canada.
Yeah.
It's 91% of his, I think, revealed holdings. There's still, 1,900 that we don't know, non-disclosed?
And he talks about the blind trust. Again, that's the question I would have asked if I had a chance there at the interview with the blind trust, as opposed to, I'm going to find the question here.
So why do you think Mark Carney wants to continue to subsidize mainstream media and to pay the full bill for the CBC, which is approaching $1.5 billion a year? Why? Because they don't criticize him. And they give him these wonderful end-of-the-year interviews where he essentially just can talk talking points. He's not challenged. He even apparently knows what the questions are going to be. We showed you those interviews. Compare those with what Pierre Poilievre had to go through. Vastly different. But this is a scam. And why do you think Mark Carney wants to destroy independent media with bills like C8 and C9 and, God forbid, the resurrected Online Harms Act, which I keep telling you will be renamed the Online Safety Act, and it's coming up in probably 2 or 3 weeks. Those bills pass, we lose our free speech, and independent media is at the mercy of the government, of the judges, and the local police. Constabulatory. They'll be at my door, I'm sure, or anybody else who wants to continue to criticize the Carney government. That's the game plan. Keep subsidizing the mainstream friendly media, eradicate the independent media with censorship and surveillance bills. That's where Mark Carney's going in 2026. And we have to keep fighting back. We have to keep demanding, as Katie Bissitney likes to say, accountability from government, from bureaucrats, from those who lord their power over us. Otherwise, the country's finished. We need our free speech to keep fighting. And that's what Mark Carney is trying to stop. We will be having Katie on the show tomorrow. She'll be talking about a number of things, including getting the quarantine lifted at the farm and where she's going. But in 2026, I will continue to keep fighting not only for farmers against the war on agriculture, but every day I'm going to talk about how this government of Mark Carney wants to take your free speech away and my free speech away. And one more, let's have a look at the store. It's a little too Christmassy, I know, but if you want one of these great Big Brother t-shirts,
Ho, 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 ho.
Who cares?
my friends, 2026 is going to be, I hate to use the word challenging. It's going to be a hell of a difficult year, but we have to keep fighting. Mark Carney talked about elbows up in the election campaign. We need our elbows up against Mark Carney in 2026. That's something worthwhile fighting for. And that's going to be one of the slogans that we present on this show every day. Elbows up against Mark Carney, against liberal tyranny, against the overreach of the federal government in our lives. Elbows up, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow. God bless you. Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I'm going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Crayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.